was as intense as any I ever recall.
Look at this now as they stare. Muhammad Ali beginning to talk to George Foreman. They're really putting the stare on each other. George Foreman has that serious look. Ali definitely talking to him. Look at the stare on George Foreman. Look at Ali give him the word. So the stage is set. We're just about ready to begin. Round one. This time, the championship is at stake, and $5 million will be paid to both fighters. Ali ready, Foreman ready. We're waiting for the opening bell. Here we go. Ali quickly across the round. Round one. Ali bouncing around, shifting left for right. George moves slow. Ali gets the first punch in. A light right hand taken on the forehead by George Foreman, the champion. Foreman moving slow, trying to stalk his man. Ali looks like he's ready to go here. He's not staying away. He's going after his man. Foreman comes in. Foreman a bit cautious in the first round, looking to drop that left hook. Man to the far corner. There's that left uppercut and jab to the body of Muhammad Ali. Ali tries to hang on to the head of George Foreman. Foreman dances now. Moves Ali with a right hand lead again. As Foreman slightly confused with that right hand lead, which I haven't seen too many times before. Ali...
A right hand lead, which means that you throw your right without countering. You throw it first. You throw it like a jab, but you throw it like there. That has to travel that extra distance across the shoulders. Professionals will very rarely use a right-hand lead because it's a terribly dangerous punch to throw since you are open to a counter with a left hook. And fighters, since they work in milliseconds, can see a right coming much faster than a jab. Nobody had thrown a right-hand lead at Foreman in 2 years. And in training camp, none of his sparring partners for $50 a day was going to start throwing right-hand leads at him because it's a great insult to a top professional when you throw a right-hand lead at him. It suggests that he's slow enough that you can hit him with it. And instead, Ali figured out the one punch Foreman's not prepared for is a right-hand lead. He's expecting me to dance. I'm not going to dance. I'm going to hit him with right hand. I'm going to knock him out in the first round. Ali threw 12 right-hand leads. I don't think he had told anyone he was going to do it. I think he may have debated about whether he was going to do it up to the last moment. And the only thing is he didn't knock Foreman down and he didn't knock him out. Instead, Foreman went crazy.
That punch did no damage. That one did. Two wild right hands taken on the side of the head of Muhammad Ali. There's a real strong right hand just underneath the heart. And Muhammad Ali is taking some punishment now. About 8 seconds left in the round.
Bell rang. Ali went back to the corner. He finally, the nightmare he'd been awaiting in the ring had finally come to visit him. He was in the ring with a man he could not dominate, who was stronger than him, who was not afraid of him, who was going to try to knock him out, and who punched harder than Ali could punch. And this man was determined and unstoppable. And Ali had a look on his face that I'll never forget. It's the only time I ever saw fear in Ali's eyes. Ali looked as if he looked into himself and said, all right, this is the moment. This is what you've been waiting for. This is that hour. And do you have the guts? And he kind of nodded to himself like, you got to get it together, boy. You really got to get it together. And you are going to get it together. You will get it together. He nodded some more, looking as if he were looking into his maker, the eyes of his maker. And then he turned to the crowd and he went, Ali Beaumillet. And 100,000 people all yelled back, Ali Beaumillet. And this huge reverberation of the crowd came back into the ring. And Ali picked it up almost as if these are my people. This is what I'm here for. All right, the time has come. I'm going to find a way to master this man.
Ali tries to tie him up. No real damage done in that exchange.
Foreman, like everyone else, had assumed that Ali would dance. And so Ali now went to the ropes and went into the rope-a-dope. And a lot of people thought at that moment the fight was over, especially on television where they saw it, because it looked like Foreman was now killing a very weak Ali.
Now, you don't go to the ropes. And there he was, leaning way back. I wrote about it as if, I think the phrase I used was, it was like a man leaning out of windows trying to see if there's something on his roof. And, you know, taking up, but you couldn't really see then. Here were these great broadsides going at him, and it looked as though he was being set up for the kill. And it happened so quickly and so abruptly that I shouted to Norman, the fix is in. You know, that somehow he's supposed to go down in the first or the second. Ropes was halfway house to the floor. It just looked as though he had to cave in.
Awkward, but very powerful
They became so basic at that point that they were like two kids having a fight. And for that round, and for the next round, and for the next round, Ali lay against the ropes in the rope-a-dope, and he kept talking to Foreman. And it was extraordinary. You had to be close to see it, but it was all because it was intimate. And Foreman was throwing these prodigious punches that the sparring partners had thrown, and Ali swung like a man in the rigging. He'd go all the way back, he'd slide out, he'd come in and out of it like that, and occasionally he'd get hit, and he'd say, "George, you disappoint me. You don't hit as hard as I thought you would. George, you're not hitting hard enough. You're not breaking popcorn, George. You're just not hitting." And Foreman's insane with rage, and whanging at him, and whanging at him, and whanging at him. Powerful, powerful, powerful. And middle of the fifth round, Foreman was worn out. He had punched himself out, taken 3 rounds.
Ali picks it up a little bit, about 40 seconds left in round number 5. Good twist left, the combination by Ali. Lands in the head of Foreman. Foreman with that right. Ali throws it, look that, a good right, backs up Foreman. Backs him up in his back. Foreman selling it. Foreman tries to look. Ali throws to the right. Foreman comes back to the left. Foreman hit again. Foreman has been hit 3 or 4 times. Misses.
Suddenly, Muhammad Ali came off the ropes and he hit him a right. And you could see the sweat just pour off, just like a fountain come off Foreman's face. And you suddenly realized there was some design in this madness. I then turned to Norman, I remember, and I see he must have been somewhat puzzled, but I said, "The succubus has got him," referring back to this woman with the trembling hands that I'd been told by the witch doctors were going to touch Foreman and destroy him.
The tactics of Ali to let the man punch himself out. 30 seconds left in round 8. Very even fight. Ali, a sneaky right hand. Another sneaky right hand. This time he worked over the shoulder of Foreman. This is the combination. 3, 4, 5, 6. Foreman gets up to the knee. 8. That's it. The fight is stopped. Muhammad Ali, a dramatic 8th round knockout. He knocks out George Foreman. He's done it. Muhammad Ali has done it. Muhammad Ali has done it.
Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali.
Muhammad Ali, he was like a sleeping elephant. You can do whatever you want around a sleeping elephant. Whatever you want. But when he wakes up, he tramples everything.
Muhammad Ali, Boumaye, Boumaye, Muhammad Ali, Boumaye, George Foreman.
He did it. He's champion again. We couldn't believe it. It was such a classic performance and so beautiful that at the moment Ali hit the knockout punch, Foreman began to go. Ali followed him around, and Ali had his right cocked for one more punch, but he never threw it. It was he didn't want to ruin the aesthetic of this man going down with a clumsy punch on the way down.
I think one has mixed emotions when you see the end of a fight. I always feel enormous sympathy for the man that's losing it. You just can't help but to, particularly when you see really a titanic, formidable figure just suddenly on the ground.
And now when we see George on television and know that after that knockout, he went through 2 years of the deepest depression. He almost didn't come out of it. To see the man who's come out of it, to see the way in which he reconstructed his personality until it would be hard put to find anyone in American life who's more affable than George Foreman. Foreman's become a fabulous person in American life.
Just as the